Hack Redcon here with the infamous John Gaddy.
Oh, my.
Welcome.
Howdy, howdy.
You know, you look different than you did back in the trial.
Yeah.
I understand, man. I had to go there. I had to.
Yeah,
My last name is No. N-O-E.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, I've heard, you know, what do you know? Hey. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, having a last name like No is a little bit more better than Gaddy.
Yeah, just a little bit.
Because I can have fun with this name. Tell me your last name. No. I said, tell me your last name. No. What part of no don't you understand? The E. So now that we're past all the name jokes, and I'm sure you're just like me where I give points for originality at this point.
Yeah.
So why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and what brings you to Hack Redcon?
So hi, my name's Mark Gaddy.
I know. I called him John for a reason.
I currently brought me to Hack Redcon. I've been coming to Hack Redcon for 3 years. Red Seer actually gave me my first ever speaking engagement, so I've tried to make a point of coming back every year.
Oh.
Yeah. I had gotten just out of college, like 6 months fresh, had no clue what I was doing, and I was like, this con thing sounds cool. Had been to one conference before, and I was like, yeah, sure, I'll submit a talk. And then I had to write a 50-minute talk for security professionals, being right out of college, had no clue what was happening.
Welcome to the machine.
Yeah.
Trial by fire.
Pretty much. So I did my first fireside chat at Hack Redcon 3 years ago now. Yeah.
Congratulations, man.
Yeah,
A veteran.
That was a lot.
So you're relatively new to the industry.
Yeah.
If you don't mind me asking, when did you graduate?
2023.
Okay, so right there at the tail end of COVID. So you actually came out of college into what I would consider one of the most inhospitable landscapes for jobs in history. You know, oh my God. How did you handle that?
Lots of applications. So starting out, I was originally set off pretty well because I had an internship with a company and they had given me an offer and I was like, all right, cool. I'm good. I don't have to worry. Like I don't need to go spray applying like all my friends were doing. I was like, I can just relax my senior year. December rolls around and
the faith we put into companies.
I know. December rolls around and all of a sudden I get an email and it's like, hey, we're restructuring, economics, all that fun stuff. HR this, HR that, no more offer. So I immediately floored because I have not been, normally I'm like, doing all these CTFs, doing all these competitions, and I had just been chilling. I had taken my foot off the gas fully.
We're cool.
Yeah.
We got nothing to worry about but life.
Yeah, exactly. But like, how am I going to pay bills in 4 months?
Yeah.
So,
surprise.
Yeah, it's surprise. Student loans are a thing. Oh, wait, I have to pay those back?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
The government does kind of expect that.
Yeah. Yeah, for not to get visited by the tax man. So,
But, oh my goodness, man. Mm-hmm. I think honestly, one of the things that maybe you're saving grace is the fact that you're new to the industry. Mm-hmm. I have seen a seismic shift in how the industry works over the last 30 years, especially over the course of the last 5. Mm-hmm. Before this, and I know that, you young whippersnappers hate hearing about us old timers in the good old days where you didn't even need a degree and all you had to do was have a little curiosity and some skills and you were getting job offers out to wazoo. Mm-hmm. We're now living in this point where I see a strict and absolutely definable line between old skill and new skill. How do you feel? Do you think I'm right on that?
I would agree with you. There is a distinct difference between old skill and new skill, old skill and new skill. I definitely think that with how much learning resources there are out there for cybersecurity now, I'm assuming like the OG cyber hacking, like I've heard of was like hackthisSite.org, which was like the basics of SQL injection and stuff like that. Whereas now, when I was coming up in the industry and I was learning, it was try hack me, hack the box. We had all these structured learning paths to where people could get into cybersecurity and make it a more approachable field than I think it might have been back whenever you were getting into it.
But even beyond that, let's look at the technologies involved. Mm-hmm. When I came up, everything was monolithic. When I started, it was one OS on one box, and it wasn't even networked. Mm-hmm. So then we had networking. We went through token rings, Ethernet, all that. But everything was basically on-prem. Mm-hmm. And now I remember when the cloud came about. And now, I remember when the cloud came about, and it wasn't even networked. You know, so then we had networking. We went through token rings, Ethernet, all that. But everything was basically on-prem. You know, and now I remember when the cloud came about, and it wasn't even networked. You know, so then we had networking. We went through token rings, Ethernet, all that. But everything was basically on-prem. You know, and now And being old school as I am, I'm like, what kind of horse shit is this? Why would I ever put my data on somebody else's servers? But, the younger generation, you grew up with this as norm. So I think that, old school and new school, there is definitely almost like a culture divide. And a lot of people from my generation, I'm watching just get basically aged out, not necessarily by their age, but by their unwillingness to learn the new ways of thinking, integration with AI, agile programming.
Yeah.
What do you think?
I agree with that there is a problem with necessarily getting aged out because there is so much new technology. Everyone is on like the new crazes because, cloud came out and it was massive. Everyone was like, whoa, this is the greatest thing since sliced bread.
Well,
and everyone loved it, except for
not everybody.
Yeah, not everybody, but except for those who want to keep their stuff on prem. Us security folk who were like, why would I want to store my data somewhere else? That makes zero sense.
Yeah.
And so,
hi, I'm that guy.
Yeah, exactly. So it's like, why it was. I feel like those big, like I don't want to say epiphany moments in like security, but those like big technology advancements that happen about every like 6 to 8-ish years, because cloud happened a while back. Yeah, it used to be, and now technology's doubling at a rate of like
every 2 days.
Yeah, basically tomorrow the new GPU is going to come out. And we're all going to be like, well, crud, or a new AI model is going to get released. It's going to blow GPT-4
we're all still
out of the
talking
water.
Essentially about the old architectures. I mean, what about quantum? I mean, Microsoft just released that chip, and I'm not going to even try and pronounce it because it's too close to other words that I don't want to say, especially on a podcast. But the truth is, we now are seeing, enterprise grade quantum chips coming out. So what happens when when those hit? I mean, quantum computers have been stuck to either governments, universities, or very, very high cost companies. It's not like a personal computer. And, with the fears around quantum breaking every current encryption, we're all still playing in the old pond while the new one fills.
I completely agree. I don't know much about quantum computing, aside from generally how powerful and how
you know essentially what everybody else does, because none of us have actually got our
hands on it.
Exactly.
It's still all basically, most of it is under lock and key still, and so we're all just like patiently waiting for them to give us more and more and more, and then when they give us the whole slew,
and let's be honest, it's probably going to be just like the Chat GPT thing, where one day we're just going to go, hi, I'm quantum. Now deal with it.
Yes, exactly.
And if we use the GPT revolution as, the precursor or the litmus test, a lot of people out there are saying that AI, and when I've said this on pretty much every interview we've done so far, there's a difference between AI, ML, and LLM. So, the fact that we're lumping them all into one term, I think we need to stop. But oh my God, this is going to change everything.
Yes. I remember I was basically graduating college when ChatGPT started like becoming like big and was like a massive like in your face thing. And I am so thankful I did not have AI when I was in college. I would have cheated so much. Like it's changed how people are doing things so much. It is just ChatGPT in my brain is efficient Google. I equate it to.
Well, my personal beliefs, and feel free to steal this if you like. LLMs are the 21st century databases, and prompt engineers are the old SQL engineers. It's just a bunch of data, and you have to figure out how to pull out of it what you want, and it's all in how you do it.
Yes.
But, with that comes, you came out looking to be a pen tester.
Yes.
And, we are now looking at cyber insurance requirements that are looking for constant threat modeling, the ability to do active pen tests with through automated processes. And I've had a couple of different pen testers in here who are more on the seasoned side than you. How do you see these particular types of applications and the physical pen testing done by humans? How do you see this working as somebody that's younger than us and seeing it with fresh eyes?
How do I see general pen tests working?
No, do you see the human pen test really being a thing, because there's a lot of arguments out there. And personally, I am of we still needed to be doing that as humans, but we're seeing more people going with just those cyber insurance requirements and going, this is enough.
I definitely don't think it is enough. I think there will always be a need for pen testing. Period. There will always have to be a human element to pen testing at the end of the day.
Why?
Just because while AIs and LLMs are going to get very, very smart, very, very quickly. There's new models that are coming out that probably will blow away old stuff in like 2 weeks.
Oh yeah.
But with that, I don't know if it will get to a point to where it can fully automate and do an entire pen tester's job without somebody needing to be fact checkers. I think slowly our jobs will change. I don't think we'll be as, I think it'll be more of like, okay, we run Bloodhound, we feed Bloodhound into, our local ChatGPT or insert whatever AI you want to use.
True.
I think it'll be, we start feeding our data and aggregating it into an AI or into an LLM. And then from that, the AI will be like, all right, cool. Here are the attack paths I see. Here are the payloads. And then rather than, I would personally, I don't know about companies, I'm not a C-suite by any means, but I would not want to have an AI or a robot running commands on my system. So in my brain,
the same way.
Exactly. In my brain, instead of us having to know every last little thing, I think we'll become more of an analytics role at the end of the day.
I've thought that, are we going to be interpreting the returns from these automated tools? But the one thing that I keep coming back to is these things are only going to be able to build off of their model. So we can put everything in MITRE in there. We can put in every CVE in there, but they're not going to be able to think outside the box.
Yes.
So I think that, in my opinion, is one of the ways that pen testers stay relevant is beyond what's black and white. How many times have you realistically, how do you fuzz something with an automation?
Yeah.
So I think that we have a place, but I think it's times like now where, especially with you as one of the younger guys, I mean, no disrespect, I got 15 years and I'm able to retire. I want to pass the torch. I want to kick back on my ranch in Texas and just smoke a cigar and watch my cattle. But I need we that are in these positions now need you younger generation to be able to take that torch from us. And I think it has to happen. As I'm never going to be as fluent with the newer technology as you are because you grew up with it. And I can try and keep myself up to date, but like you said, it's just never going to be enough. So how do we get the information and that message that we still have a place to your associates and people like you that are just coming out of college who may be looking at everything going, there's no point, because that is a big fear that's going on in a lot of the chat rooms and the forums is, if the companies are just going to look at, once again, checking the box for a regulatory purpose, what do they need us for?
Yeah, exactly. I've had plenty of conversations with people in college or people who I've graduated with who still haven't found a job. And they're like, there's no point in me going into cyber anymore just because of AIs. And I was like, because nobody's hiring because they're replacing our jobs with AIs. And I'm like, yes, they're replacing the job. And I think it's all about finding a company or a community even that will help pour into you as a newbie, because we do have all these learning resources, but there's nothing compared to like human interaction, like doing stuff like this, like B-sides, Hack Redcon, Hack SpaceCon, all those like going to DEF CON for the first time, like doing that is one of the best networking things you can possibly do.
I've been saying for every interview, the only thing DEF CON is good for anymore is networking.
Yeah.
There's no point in trying to watch the sessions. Just watch them on YouTube. I try
to watch one talk. I was like, I want to go to one of these talks. And I sat in line for like 30 minutes before the talk. I was like, I'm not getting in.
And that's the point. If you want to see a talk, you got to line up the talk before and hope that there's space.
Exactly. And so I definitely think that there needs to be more mentorship and more openness to the newcomers, because I know a lot of people who I graduated with who are trying to actively get into cyber and they can't, you know what I mean? Or they've been looking for a job since graduated with me like 2 years ago, and they're still looking, or they're like, okay, cool, I found a job, I'm working IT, you know, I'm hoping to move to cyber. And like, that's valid route. There are many options.
Actually, that's probably the safest route to go.
That is honestly, that's what I tell everyone right now. I say there's no shame in working IT. I worked IT before I got in cyber. It was only 3 months, but I still did IT for a little bit. You know what I mean?
And to be honest, I think working in IT actually gives you a little bit of experience of actual interaction, you know, because when you're in college and you're learning best practices, you're learning theory. You know, I remember my nephew who's my little protege, you know, I love this kid. He actually learned Linux before Windows. You know, and he was like, I'm going to be like you when I grow up, Uncle Len. I'm like, learn Windows. He's like, why?
Because there's so much more to learn on Windows, and every company uses Windows.
Well, it wasn't even that. He's like, I want to be a cybersecurity guy like you, Uncle Len. And I was like, you're going to break into a Windows network and have no idea what to do. So I made him go work on a help desk for like 9 months, you know, and now anytime I just want him to just go, you know, want to win an argument with him, I'm just like, best practices, Brian. Best practices. And he's like, yeah, okay, I get it. Nobody does best practices.
Yes.
But I agree with you that, you know, there definitely needs to be a lot more openness. And for those, you know, associates of yours that are still looking, are they doing the same thing that you did as far as interacting with the community?
Yes and no. They are trying to, but like going to cons was a big thing for them because they were like, I've never been to a con before.
See,
you know, that kind of thing.
Think and I'm like, cons are good.
Yeah.
But I don't think that's where it needs to start. I am 100% a supporter of B-Sides, ISACA, ISC2, your DEF CON chapters.
Yeah.
You know, the grassroots movements where you can actually learn your chops and like I hang out with the AHA guys, the Austin Hackers Association. I've been to Dallas Hackers Association, DC 281. Every one of these meetings, there's like, you know, a point during the meeting where they're like, if anybody needs help with a job, you know, if anybody knows somebody that's looking for one or has some posting, you know, that's where you get that. Because I agree, you don't get in on your skills. You get in because you know somebody who gives you the option to present your skills and see if they'll bite.
Exactly. And so I think it was also people are really, at least my colleagues speaking for them a little bit, they were very scared to go out of like the area. Where I grew up in Florida, there was not a big cyber community presence. And so the closest we had was like 3 hours to Tallahassee. You know,
and that's a very good point to bring up. If you want to get into this, sometimes you need to go to where the jobs are.
Exactly.
You know, I grew up on the west side of Detroit. So unless you were automotive, you know, there really wasn't much unless you were either an automotive or you were working for an automotive supplier.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. It's just, that was the big thing is I always tell my friends, like, I've never regretted going to my first con. My first con was Hackspace Con in 2023. And that's why I met two of my like biggest mentors there. Like that's people who like reviewed my resume for me about 20 times until we got it right, you know, trying to get past all the HR firewalls and everything. And were like teaching me different skills, those kinds of things. And I'm like, I've always told them like, you just need to put your foot out there. Because once you put your foot out there, the community is so welcoming, but I feel like there's such a big stigma on everyone wants to keep their jobs that they have now and that there are no jobs in cyber, especially with all the layoffs currently happening.
But have you noticed that a lot of those layoffs are not coming from the technicians' positions? They're coming from managerial.
Yes. And that's the entire thing is everyone's like, oh, I can't get a job. And I'm like, okay, well, how many jobs are you applying to in a day? You know what I mean? I know when I was looking, I was spamming my application. If there was cyber even in the job description, I was applying.
And that's the way you need to do it.
Exactly. You just have to be super proactive in your search. And I think that is the biggest thing that some newcomers miss out on is like, we go to college and we're told it in college. I was told all of college I would never have trouble finding a job afterwards. I was told the entire time. Biggest lie ever. And so, you know, there was no push to get internships. There was no like nothing set up at my university that was, you know, very like, oh yeah, you can do this. This will help you. This is what, like, you know, there was none of that happening. And so it was just like we had our cyber club and we had our classes and that was all we had. And so we tried to make those the best we could. And, you know, we competed where we could, but it's once you leave college when like the real work kind of starts. You know what I mean? You spent 4 years kind of honing your skill set and like starting and getting all the basics in. You know what I mean?
There's an old school expression, 9 to 5 will get you the job. 5 to 12 will get you the career.
Exactly.
You have to be willing to put the effort in. And you are living proof that if you do, you can still get there even in this AI, oppressed world.
Yeah.
So with that, we're going to move on to the next step. So I really appreciate it. Before we move, why don't you throw out any type of contact information if anybody wants to get in touch with you? LinkedIn, maybe, if you got a YouTube channel.
If you want to follow me, primarily I'm on LinkedIn. It's just going to be Mark Gaddy, MarkGaddy. That'll be the best way to contact me. So, yeah.
That or through the Sicilian crime families?
Yes. I can either confirm nor deny.
See, that is exactly how I would expect a security engineer to respond. So now let's move into the fun part of today. So all day today, we have been doing whiskey and war stories.
Ooh, yeah.
So we would like, especially with you being new into the industry, I want to hear a funny story, a sarcastic story, and give me something that sticks out in your mind since you got into this industry, and tell us all all about it and what it was all about.
Yeah. So the funniest thing I think I have found was I started working in IT and I worked for a school. I was their IT director. I was the only IT man. There was nobody else. It was just me. So I walk in and I'm in this like IT closet basically, and it's my first day. And so I'm like, okay, cool. It's my first time ever looking at like a fully networked Active Directory that's like been set up. There was one guy who worked there before me
thought
for
it was going to
17
be
years.
set up nice, didn't
I thought
you?
it was great. I thought it was going to be awesome. I look at it and I'm like, oh, every teacher is a domain admin. Every single one of them. And they get to take their laptops home every day. And I'm like, oh, that's a problem. No password requirements. I'm like, oh, okay. So,
now you know why that job was vacant.
yeah, exactly. I was like, the guy who had been there before me had been working there for a very, very long time. And, they hadn't had like any real big instance. And he wasn't, I don't know if he wasn't security minded. He was brilliant with networks. The network was set up beautifully. Just when I looked at security policies, I died a little inside.
I think if I would have saw that, I would have been, you know what? How bad do I need this job?
Yeah. I was about 4 months into the unemployment hole at that point. It was the only place that would hire me, and I was like, I'm taking it. Don't care what it is. I'm doing it.
Now, here's the better question. Did you resolve that? And how much of a fight was that?
Oh, I hated it. I had to talk to the administration every single day for the entire 3 months I was there. I was basically in the principal's office being like, hey.
For the record, I spent a lot of time in the principal's office myself, too.
See, I was never normally that kid. So I was like, I had to go walk and see the principal. I would text my parents. I'm like, guess who got to go have a meeting with the principal again? But I would go and I would talk to him every day. I'm like, hey, I need to like implement security controls because right now we may be like leaking student information. And that was my main concern is like, where is student information being held? Because it was a private school. So we had all the funding information and all that stuff.
Goodness.
And I was like, I could have pen tested the thing, but I would not have found everything because I was so new. Like I would.
Let's be honest.
Some of the easy
if everybody's a domain admin, that's not really much of a pen test, is it?
Exactly. All you got to do is crack one of the features.
All you got to do is pop one account and you've got the keys.
Exactly. And so it was just like I went through some of the teachers' passwords and some of them were definitely on the Rocky list. And I was like, okay, I need to go through and institute like a school-wide password change.
Password complexity policy.
Password complexity policy. Everybody got a nice little memo from me. They knew when the IT man started because they started getting a lot more emails about security things.
And you were probably the most hated person on that campus for a while.
See, I was the most hated and the most loved because every time a projector would break, who got called? I got called.
This guy.
Yeah, exactly. So I was their saving grace and also the man they hated getting emails from because then they would have to change everything they were doing.
Well, on that note, word to the wise, do not have every one of your end users as a domain admin, but that's just a little bit of free security advice.
Yeah, just
Mark,
a little bit.
Thank you for being a good sport about the John Gotti thing. Thank you for joining me here, and we will continue with the podcast all day until it's time for me to take my crazy butt back to the airport. Until the next one, peace out.
Thank you.